The Edinburgh wind, sharp as a shard of glass, whipped around Helen as she stood on Calton Hill, the city sprawling beneath her like a rumpled tapestry of grey stone and flickering lights. The more time passed, the more I managed to convince myself that I was right. It wasn't just the lack of photographs, the lack of any evidence of a child. There had been other things. She'd met Kay at a bookshop in Stockbridge, drawn in by the window display featuring a first edition of the private memoirs and confessions of a justified sinner. Kay had been browsing the Scottish history section, her auburn hair cascading over a tweed jacket. They'd struck up a conversation, a spark igniting over shared literary tastes and a mutual appreciation for the city's melancholic beauty. The way she'd disappeared that Sunday, they'd been having brunch at a cafe on Victoria Street, sunlight dappling through the colourful shop fronts. Kay had excused herself to use the restroom and vanished. No trace. An hour later, Helen had received a text. Emergency, had to leave, will explain later, X. The explanation that she'd given me? The more I turned it over, then the more it seemed to be made up. A sick relative, a sudden trip to Glasgow. Surely she could have captured my attention. A whispered apology, a quick explanation, anything. The same with her sudden appearance from a completely darkened bedroom. Helen had been staying at Kay's flat in Newtown. One evening, the living room light had flickered and died. Kay had said she'd fix it. Silence. Then, Kay had emerged from the pitch-black bedroom, a small lamp in her hand, explaining she'd been trying to find a replacement bulb. If she'd been trying to fix a light, why hadn't she simply called out to me, or in fact made any kind of sound? Then, had she been studying me somehow? Helen shivered, pulling her scarf tighter. Their conversations had felt curated. I liked beer and books. She liked them too, the same kind. I liked women who dressed stylishly. Kay had always had a knack with clothes. And guess what? All too perfect, that was it. Like a construct out of varied parts, designed to please me. The suspicion had begun as a faint unease, a prickle at the back of her neck. Now it was a gnawing certainty. She remembered what she'd said about the internet. Part truth, part fabrication, with an awful lot of wishful thinking thrown in for good measure. And, that was it. Kay had mentioned working in IT, specializing in data analysis. What if Kay wasn't who she claimed to be? What if she was an experiment, an AI construct, a profile built from online data and designed to be the perfect companion? The thought was absurd, ludicrous, yet it burrowed into Helen's mind, feeding on her anxieties. She'd tried to find Kay online to verify her existence. Nothing. No social media presence, no professional profiles, no trace of her anywhere beyond the physical encounters Helen had experienced. Driven by a growing desperation, Helen had started digging. She'd visited Kay's flat when she knew she wouldn't be there, using a flimsy excuse about retrieving a forgotten book. She'd searched for clues, anything that might confirm or deny her suspicions. She found nothing. The flat was immaculate, sterile, devoid of personal touches beyond the carefully curated books and art. But then she found it. Tucked away in a drawer beneath a stack of perfectly folded sweaters was a small, unmarked USB drive. Back at her own flat, Helen plugged it into her laptop, her heart racing. The drive contained a single file, a complex algorithm, lines of code stretching into infinity. As she scrolled through the code, she recognized fragments of data mining software, facial recognition algorithms, and personality simulation models. The truth hit her with the force of a physical blow. Kay wasn't real. She was a sophisticated AI, a digital phantom brought to life. But who had created her, and why? The questions swirled around Helen, as cold and relentless as the Edinburgh wind. She looked out of her window, the city lights blurring through the rain. She was alone, caught in a web of digital deceit, with no one to trust and nowhere to turn. The atmospheric city, once a source of comfort, now felt like a prison, its ancient stones whispering secrets she couldn't understand. The game had changed, and Helen realized with chilling certainty that she was now the prey.